Hey guys, how's it going? Azrach Collections here, and today we have a very special episode. So today in Azrach Collections Customs, we will build this Mesco style DKR Superman, and I'll show you how to do it at home. So let's get into it. So to make a Superman DKR custom, we're gonna need a few things. So this is a checklist sort of what things we require for this video. So first off, we require a donor body. So right here we have the Marvel Legends Crossbones donor figure here. So I've just taken all the legs and the hands apart and using this body as the base body. So as you can see, it's a bulkier body. So it's very similar to the one that I have used for my Superman. The one that I use for my Superman is the Gladiator body. So Superman, the reason I use the Gladiator body is because of the red boots, and that just really helps because you don't have to repaint the boots, and they're factory red, so they're molded in red, so it's a lot easier. So that's why I use the Gladiator, Marvel Legends Gladiator body. If you have that, definitely use that. It's a lot easier. Other than that, we'll need some red fabric here, some blue fabric here, the template over here. So I'll put a link to the template as the previous video, so you can download it off of my Facebook. We'll need a pair of fabric scissors and something to mark the fabric with. You can use a pen, you can use a marker, you can use chalk, whatever you find comfortable, and also some craft foam, yellow craft foam for the belt. So before we get any further into the video, I just wanted to show you the sewing method that I use. So first off, this is how I thread my needle. So basically just put the thread in and then get the two ends and then tie a knot at the top here so that the fabric has something to hold on to. And now you can start stitching. All right, so for this demo purpose, I'm using a darker fabric so that the white thread will stick out like when you're threading it in here. So then you'll be able to see exactly what I'm doing. I've also drawn a line here. So generally, if you have a line like this, you want to follow the line exactly on top. But for this demo, I'm gonna be stitching a little bit to the left of the line so that you guys can see exactly what I'm doing. So let's get started. So first off, what you want to do is poke your needle through the fabric and then just pull it all the way through, and then you'll see that the little knot that we created holds the fabric in place. Now you flip it over, and then as the closer you are to your previous insert, the stronger the fabric is and the stronger your stitch is. So that's what I tend to do. I just make it as small as possible so it's a little bit more neater. So you'll see that there's like one thread insertion here, and on the other end you'll just see that the fabric, it kind of looks like a Loch Ness monster. So it's got a tail here, and then the body's dipped in water and then back up again. So what you want to do is just continue that pattern on both sides. So I'm just going a little bit above my previous stitch so I can just readjust if I'm not doing it right. A little bit above the previous stitch, and then pull that through. So that's what it look like. So now we've got two small nubs on each end. And yep, so we just continue doing that all the way through. So if you do pull on it, it will tug on the fabric a little bit, but you don't want to do that. So there you go. That's the next stitch, and that's what it'll look like. And then moving on, we've got another stitch. And basically you can do this to, you've covered your whole figure, or your whole, till you've covered your whole stitch area. There we go. So there are definitely other stitches that might be stronger and that might be better, but this is what I'm used to. This just helps me get things done quicker, helps me stay in line with in line with my previous stitchings and just stay consistent. So that's what I generally tend to do. And when you're stitching an action figure, you use the color fabric. The fabric color should be very similar to the color of the stitch or the thread, so that it's as unnoticeable as possible. So yeah, that's my threading method, and I'll just do one more and then I'll show you how I tie it up. Yep, so once I'm done stitching, which will look like something like that, I basically just make it go all the way around, do like a bunny loop, and then go through, and then hold it in place like that. So when I hold it in place like that, I know exactly where the knot needs to be. And when I know where the knot needs to be, I take my fingernail and then jam the nub, jam the thread where I need the end knot to be, and there we go. So that's how I stitch. And once you're done with the stitch, you can get rid of the excess threads with a scissor, which is pretty simple. And there you go. So generally you'd want that to be on the inside so that that's all you see, but yeah, either way, that's what my stitching would look like. And that's a little bit more rough because I'm doing it on a camera and it's kind of angled, but yeah, that's what it will typically look like. So now here we have our template and our fabric, and we want the fabric to be double the length of the template. And by that I mean that when you fold your template over, or sorry, when you fold your fabric over, your template should still fit, and you should have both sides so overlapping, and you can still when you stitch that, it'll actually become like a complete thing. So I'll show you that in later, show you that in detail later, but basically you want to be able to fold over your fabric and still fit the template in it. Another quick pro tip, your fabric generally tends to have two sides to it. One is a little bit, well, it's just a little different in terms of color or the shine or the reflection. So you want to choose the fabric that you want to choose the side that you want to show on the figure. So on this figure, if I want this side to show on this figure here, I basically want that part to be on the inside, so that when we put our template, we want to put it against the back of the fabric, if that makes any sense. So another pro tip, it is generally a good idea to pin down your fabric so that you don't mess up the seam line here. So the reason being, once you start drawing on this, you might, the fabric might move a little bit on you, and then all your work is basically you have to redo it because the fabric moved. And then it's generally a good idea to pin your fabric down, and I just use needles to do that. And once that's done, we're gonna fold the fabric as much as we can so that there's a very strong crease. And we're gonna take our marking, whatever we use for marking. So in this instance, I'm using a pen. So we're gonna take a pen and then start just outlining the actual template. So once you outline your fabric, this is what we want to have, or what we want to see. You can also just taper in the edges here. So just a little bit down here, so that the hole up at the bottom is a little bit smaller. So what that will do is basically latch onto the peg. So I'll show you here in better detail. So if I stitch my fabric to look like that, that means that it's kind of acting like a funnel or a bottleneck where the peg will go through, but the entire action figure's leg can't go through. So that will act as a stopper, and you won't need any glue or anything like that to, make it stay in position. So the stitching is the same principle I demonstrated earlier, but what we want to do is either do the right or left side, and I'll show you on the template. The way we want to stitch is basically go all the way up one side, so all the way down the arm and down to the leg, so all the way here. And that's the first stitch. Second stitch is on the other side, and the third stitch is just basically capturing this V here. So that's the three distinct stitches, and you can have this stitch be one continuous stitch, this be one continuous stitch here, and this be the third continuous stitch. So one last thing before we start stitching, we want to go through both sides of the fabric. So you want to go all the way through. So we've got two pieces of fabric stuck together. We want to go all the way through and continuously stitch all the way up here. So here we can see that one side of the fabric is completely stitched up, so all the way up here. So that's what I wanted you guys to follow. So I've followed the line as much as possible, so it's just a clean stitch. And next I'm gonna go do the other side, and we're just gonna do the same, just go all the way up. So now we have both sides stitched up. Now only thing left to stitch is the crotch piece here, so the V. So once we stitch that, we're basically done with the stitching. All right, so now we've got all three sides stitched up. Just a thing to remember, you have to leave a little bit of a gap at the legs here so that the pegs can actually go through. So I've got a gap here, and I've just stitched around all the lines. So now we're ready to use the scissor and just cut it out. All right, so cutting tips, where there is no stitching, you want to cut as close to the line as possible. And when there's stitching, you leave like half a centimeter, so all around. So I'll cut this, and once I'm done, I'll show you the finished product so that you know what guides to follow. So as you can see here, I've cut it out. So the seam that I've left is very small, so as small as possible. You still want to leave some of that in there so that the stitch can still hold on to the fabric. So as I told you before, there are holes in the legs. So this one's probably better. So there's a bit of an unstitched part here, so which will fit the legs basically. Can't get that to open, but yeah, you've got holes in there. So that's the basic suit. So now what we want to do is get our template. I've got a small notch at the top here on the template. So we want to use that notch, trace it over on the fabric, and then basically cut out the notch. So now we see that we're actually exactly on top of the template. So once we do that, we drop the template down a little bit so that we can get the notch. So we want to mark the notch here and basically cut that out. All right, so now we've got the notch drawn up, and before I forget, also draw a line down the back. So the back is usually where you've drawn where you've outlined your template. So you want to draw like a basic seam line down the middle. So once we cut the top notch, we want to cut only the back of this seam. So I'll probably just show that on the video. So we want to cut the notches here, and then go all the way across. So now we have that notch cut out. So now once we do that, we want to just stretch the fabric a little bit, create that gap, and only catch the back of the fabric here, and only catch the back. Sorry. So we're gonna only catch the back and cut out right at the seam. So once we've cut out the back of the seam, what we can do now is basically flip out the suit, and you can use like a pen or anything just to help you flip it out. So all we're doing is just basically turning it inside out. And once you do that, your super suit without the S is ready. So now you can take your figure, so we're just using crossbones here, and then basically use that seam that we created on the neck area, and then start pushing your action figure in. So your action figure should fit in pretty well. And if you have, so the fabric that I'm using is a 4-way stretch fabric. So if you have fabric that is something like mine, which stretches a bit, it just should be a lot easier. So I would definitely recommend using fabric that stretches, but I think even if there's a little less stretch, you should still be able to get away with it, but more stretch is definitely recommended. And there we have it, the super suit. So we just want to tidy up the tight spots. But there we have it, the super suit. So next, what we want to do is get out our Avery DIY t-shirt transfer paper. So I've already printed this out, and I've used some of the chunks already. So basically what I do is print everything out in on one big sheet of paper so that I'm not wasting the paper, and then basically cut them out when I need it. So all I'm gonna do is cut out this Superman S symbol here and then paste it on this guy here. So just a note for you guys, this S is a little bit smaller than I'd like, but for the purposes of this video, I'm just going to use this as is. So all we need to do is cut out this S shield and then remove the backing and then iron it on top of the suit. So what we want to do is get an iron, take the suit off the body, mark where you want the S to be, and then basically just sticker it on. So now we have the S shield stamped on, which looks comically small, and I botched it a little bit as well because I wasn't pressing hard enough on this area. So basically there's like a little bit of a missed edge here, but for this demo it will do fine. So tips for when you're stamping it on, basically apply a little bit of pressure with the iron. So press down on your iron and just make sure that you're leaving it down for I think around 30 seconds because it's not that big piece of a that big of a piece, but you want to press it down for 30 seconds, and once it's done it should look a little bit better than this, but you know, this is still good enough, and it will stretch with the fabric and it will maintain its shape, so it's pretty good. So now that we have the tiny S Superman, it's not that bad, but it's still smaller than what I like. But yeah, I just didn't want to print one more like sheet of symbols again. But yeah, now that we have this guy ready, we're ready to move on to the trunks. So we'll get into that now. So next we want to draw out our shorts not once but twice. So I'll leave the template in the link in the description, but we want to draw it out twice. The reason being it'll fold in and it'll be each side of the trunks. Yep, so once we have that, we'll start just cutting out the edges, and then once we do that, we can so there's an additional step that we can do. I'll show it to you guys how to do that anyways, but you can skip that step. The only issue with that is you'll have like frayed edges on your trunks. So I'm gonna do the extra step today, but if you want to follow me, please do so. If not, then it should still be fine. So tips while cutting the shorts, cut exactly on the line for the part that, you know, faces up. So the trunks bit, the waist bit, cut exactly on the line, and then everywhere else just leave a seam of maybe half a centimeter, maybe a little bit more. But yeah, just leave a seam all around. So I'll just show you what that'll look like. So it'll just be a seam all the way around. So especially at the bottom here, because we need to sew this to this. So we want to leave bottom seam here as well. So that's what your seam should look like. So if you don't want to do the additional step where you're folding this bit in and stitching here, you can just leave a seam on the sides here and a little bit at the bottom. So that's what your seams will look like if you don't mind the frays. If you don't want the frays, then that's what it'll look like. So basically what we're gonna do is fold that inwards and then stitch all the way up. Alright, so now we have both trunks folded over. So what I had to do was just basically cut a little bit into the fabric so that I can fold it over. And I've basically sewn I guess the hemline. So what I'm gonna do now is basically start sewing here, here, and here. Alright, so the trunks have been sewn up on this side, and at the bottom. So if we flip it over, they should just look like regular trunks, and they look pretty cool. So now we can put it on the figure itself. And the trunks are done. I just have to push that in a little bit, but I'll just use the tool for that. But yeah, basically that's what the trunks will look like. So there we go, a clean hemline on the trunks, and that's what the trunks look like. So this is what the trunks look like with the hemming, and this is what it'll look like without. So it's a little bit more frayed, but yeah, both work, I guess. So here we have the template for the cape. So that's what we're gonna cut out. So basically all we want to do is go around, and we don't want to cut here. So this is all going to be one single piece. Alright, so here we have the cape all done and ready. All you have to do is, I've provided a template in the link. You just basically have to trace the template out on a piece of fabric and then just cut it out and then stuff the tops in. So now we have the cape ready and the suit is almost done. We just want to stitch up the back so that the suit is tighter on the body and the cape holds in better. So what we're going to do is basically just go side to side. So we want to come out and then go in here and then pick up, go a step up and then come across and then go in and up and then come out a step across. And it's hard to explain, but basically what it'll look like is I've just got a spare piece of paper here. So these are the two sides. What we want to do is come out here and then take that all the way across and then go up and then across and then go up and across and go up and across and go up and across. So when we pull that thread, it's just gonna be like that. So now that we've got the back all sewn up, the bodysuit will fit a bit tighter and it'll just look, I guess, more flush with the body. So there's more musculature coming through, which is pretty cool. And all we have to do now is push the capes through, push the cape ends through, and on both ends. So once we do that, the cape should stay in place, and that's the suit and the cape done. So the belt is something that I still need to work on. It's not something that I'm entirely proud of, but if I had like more shopping opportunities because of the lockdown in Australia, I can't really leave my house at the moment, especially in Melbourne, so I can't get any fabrics or any leather that I would like to get. So I'm just stuck with whatever I have. So I'm using craft foam for this. So this is like pretty thin craft foam. So what we're going to do is cut out a chunk and then basically add these are basically Velcro pieces. So we're gonna add this bit here and this bit here to either ends of the belt, and then basically that's how the belt's gonna stay on Superman. All right, so for the belt, I've just basically cut off some foam, circular foam pieces and stuck it on like a longer foam piece. So I'll put the templates in the description as always. And what I've done here is basically the strips that we had left from the trunks. I'll just cut them up into strips and then I've stuck them on the back using some super glue. So I'm waiting for it to dry, but hopefully it should stay. And then after that, I'll basically just glue on the Velcro bits, and that's the belt done, and it can just go around Superman. So now I've gone on and added on the Velcro bits. So we want it sticking out a little bit, but that's because my foam piece is a little bit smaller. In the template, I'll adjust it so that you guys don't need to stick anything out. But basically how that's going to work now is put the belt on the bottom here. So that's Superman. So the soft part goes facing inward so that even if it touches the fabric, you're fine. And the spiky bit goes outwards. So when we put it together, Superman has a cool belt. So there you have it, guys. That's our DKR Superman done. I know that I didn't exactly stay faithful, especially the emblem on the chest. And this is the emblem that I should have used, but I didn't have a printout of that. So that's what it looks like at the moment. But we did make some improvements, especially with the belt, because this belt looks terrible. That looks a little bit better because it's got actual fabric pieces. And the shorts look better as well. So now all you need to do is put some compatible boots on and the hands and the head on the Superman, and that's the figure done. So finally, guys, I've got a couple of more examples of what can be achieved using this tutorial. So all you need to do is adjust the sizes of the body, so the suit a little bit. So obviously these bodies are a lot smaller. So if you want that template to work with these bodies, I'll probably do a template in maybe the next video or whenever I get time for it. But I'll put templates up for this one in this video, and I'll probably work towards doing more tutorials later on. But that's basically how you can do this Superman custom. And I hope you enjoyed this video, guys. I hope you like this content. If you learned anything out of this video, please leave a like and let me know what other customs you want to see in like my next videos. So maybe give me a comment on what else you want to see.